直播开始了啦，不要回来，马上走开哦。走开是去上厕所哦，还是要回来给我充人气不然老板会生气，我的加薪会被放弃哦。各位朋友，大家好，欢迎来到祥普公司的线上直播研讨会，我是今天的主持人德勋平常我负责的主要是嘉义、台南区现场的一些业务。那在我身边是我们美丽的产品经理阿佩。
嗨，大家好。
那祥普公司在营养保健这个领域已经耕耘了数十年那有很好的成绩。那在我们的一些也备受我们客户的肯定今天我们直播研讨会的主题是先下手为强，立刻行动。那这个鲜呢，顾名思义就是我们的一支产品助好鲜。那它是一个动物饲粮中良好的纤维来源。那利是我们一支新产品保利净那让你了解说下利除了用药，还有一些其他的选择好，那我们现在来邀请阿国妹首席顾问 Dr. Arthur 来为我们介绍助好鲜这支产品。
Dr. Arthur 呢，他的经历是曾经在阿国妹公司担任很长一段时间的研发总监，他是世界知名的纤维专家，对不管是反刍动物或者是单位动物的应用，还有研究方面都非常的了解。在学校毕业之后呢，他也同时管理了家里的乳牛场还有肉牛场。2017年之后，他成为阿国妹的首席顾问，目前就是主要就是负责全世界的相关的业务的介绍。还有，那我们之后呢，就现在进入他的讲题。
Good morning or good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you to our short seminar about dietary fiber as an important tool in sow and piglet nutrition. And it's my pleasure to give this seminar today online. I made this video a few days before you meet today. My name is Dr. Arthur Kreuzmeier. I have been working with Agromate on the topic of fiber and the topic of lignin cellulose since more than 15 years now. And I would like to share my experience and my thoughts about this topic today with you. So if we talk about fiber and pigs, the question is, what is the perfect fiber source for pigs? The perfect fiber source should have a low inclusion level because we do not want to dilute the diet. The only exception maybe is gestating sows, but in all the other pig diets, we want to guarantee high levels of nutrients, and that's why we don't want to dilute diets. If we talk about fiber, it's extremely important that fiber stimulates peristalsis. It's important that fiber stimulates the gastric movement. And that's why fiber needs to show very, very fine particles. If we think about the technical distinction, we need to know that there are different types of fiber available on the market. And it's very important just to use non-soluble fibers, because non-soluble fibers do not ferment in the small intestine, and this means they do not disturb the digestive process. So soluble fibers need to be avoided, especially in piglets. So we want to have non-soluble fibers, but these non-soluble fibers should be fermentable in the large intestine, because fermentation in the large intestine delivers additional energy to the pig, and fermentable fiber in the colon leads to a healthy gut, and fermentable fiber helps to fight against pathogenic bacteria. Especially the production of butyric acid in the large intestine is extraordinarily important. So we need to have fermentation which leads to the production of butyric acid. Butyric acid is very antagonistic to pathogens, and butyric acid is a super energy source for the animal. So if we take a look to the fiber fractions into this chaotic picture, we see that the different chemical structures of fiber have different effects. Let's just take a look on the headlines. Soluble fibers and insoluble fibers. In animal nutrition, in sow nutrition, in pig nutrition, we don't want to have the soluble ones. The soluble fibers will be fermented in the small intestine, and fermentation in the small intestine means that pathogenic bacteria can grow better, and we want to avoid this. So this is negative, especially for piglets. Piglets are very sensitive. Feeding stuffs such as soybean hulls, such as wheat bran, contain loads of soluble fiber. That's why they are a problem for piglets. Insoluble fiber is not causing any problems. It is influencing the passage rate. It is influencing the speed of digestion. On the other hand, we have fermentable and non-fermentable fibers. So this means, how do these fiber components act in the large intestine? Solubility means what happens in the small intestine. Fermentability means what happens in the large intestine. Non-fermentable fibers, unfortunately, do nothing in the large intestine. So they just support peristalsis. This is good, but they cannot be broken down by bacteria. So they are no energy source. They are just bulk. Whereas fermentable fiber in the large intestine are very positive for the growth of the bacteria, and they have a very, very good effect on the gut health of the animal. So if we have fermentable fibers in the colon, this is very beneficial for the animal. So what we want to have is, in the small intestine, we want to have insoluble fiber. In the large intestine, we want to have fermentable fiber. The problem is that most of the fiber sources which are fermentable at the same time are soluble. This means they have positive effect in the large intestine, but before they have negative effect in the small intestine, like wheat bran, like soy hulls. So this does not really support us. If we use an insoluble fiber source, like lignocellulose first generation, we have insoluble fibers, which is good, but at the same time they are non-fermentable. So we don't have a positive effect here. So what we need is a fiber source. The perfect fiber source is insoluble in the small intestine, but fermentable in the large intestine. And that's what lignocellulose second generation, which means Opticell, is. Opticell is the only fiber source which is insoluble in the small intestine, but fermentable in the large intestine. And that's the uniqueness of this special type of dietary fiber. The problem is that the fiber sources that we use in animal nutrition are very often just byproducts. So they are waste products from food processing. So we never know what's really inside. The nutrient level can be varied. The protein quality is often a problem. Soybean hulls, wheat bran shows some protein, but this is indigestive protein. So this is not, this is disturbing the digestive process, because indigestive protein leads to the growth of pathogens. So another problem is that those cheap products have many co-products inside which are negative, such as toxins, such as mycotoxins, such as dioxin, heavy metal, and others. So these byproducts, they are available because they are thrown away in the food processing. And we should think about why the food producers want to get rid of that. They want to get rid of that because they're somehow dangerous, and that's why we shouldn't use them as well in animal nutrition. The co-products, the byproducts, they are very often associated with high buffering capacity, which is negative again. So high buffering capacity is a huge problem because we don't have enough acidification in the stomach. And this is a huge problem, especially for piglets, but also for sows. And the protein digestibility is a huge problem because those indigestive protein contained in these fiber co-products cannot be digested properly and is digested by pathogenic bacteria like E. coli and Clostridia perfringens. So this means if we use such co-products such as soy hulls, wheat bran, we often have huge problems with pathogenic bacteria like E. coli and Clostridia. Of course, we have a very high risk of mycotoxins. I think you all know about the mycotoxin problems we have in any part of the world. And of course, the mycotoxins, they are located in the bran and in the hull. So if we just use the bran and the hull, the soy hull or the wheat bran or the rice bran, of course, we have the risk that we import high loads of dangerous mycotoxins into our diets. It's a huge problem. So if we compare different fiber sources, we should take a look into how standardized are those products? How available are those products? Do we have a risk of mycotoxins? And do we have a risk of toxification? And we see that Opticell is the best product regarding standardization because Opticell is always the same. So you really know what you get. Of course, it's available. There is no mycotoxin in lignocellulose. That's wonderful. It's the only fiber source free of mycotoxins. And there is no pathogenic or other bacteria in it. If we take a look to the bran, we see bran, you never know what you buy. The level of nutrients can vary a lot. The same is for rice bran, soybean hulls. There is a lot available of it. That is absolutely true. It's cheap and available. That's the only advantage, by the way, because it's available, but it's also full of mycotoxins, and it can be full of other toxins. Is not the problem in rice bran. It is often a problem in wheat bran, and it is more or less always a problem in soybean hulls, because soybean hulls are terribly wasted. They are terribly full of toxins and of other disturbing agents to sows. Opticell is, as I said earlier, the only fiber source which is completely insoluble but fermentable. Additionally to that, it has a very, very fine particle size, so just a few micrometers, and these very fine particles gives excellent ability to the product to stimulate the digestive motility, the gut motility, and to steer the digestive process. It's a very well sanitized product, so there's no toxins, no bacteria inside. It's a natural product, there's no mycotoxins in it. It's standardized and very highly concentrated, so just a small inclusion rate helps us to fulfill the fiber supply. And we have no negative interactions with other feeding stuffs, especially with minerals and vitamins. So we talked about that already. We need small particles to influence the gut peristalsis, to influence the passage rate, to improve the gut health. You can see here, you see the micronized fiber. You see a competitor product here, and you see Opticell here, and you can see that Opticell shows no particles larger than 280 micrometers, whereas competitors have 50% of the particles are bigger than 280, whereas Opticell shows 80%. 80% are around 80 micrometers. So that's fantastic. So this is a complete different quality. This is sawdust. This is a high quality product. You see this? Oh, I have to go back. I'm sorry. One more try. Okay, you can see here. This is the particle. It's the same magnification. You see the Opticell particle. You see the wheat bran. How big is the wheat bran? And you see the competitor product. Opticell, very small particles. Competitor, very big particles. Sometimes sharp particles. So these particles, they can hurt inside the digestive tract, whereas Opticell is so very small that it shows very positive effects. Look at this, 10 times magnification. Opticell, very small particles. Competitors, huge particles. Just imagine if you eat this. If the pig eats this, it can hurt the mucosa. That's what we can see here. If you use the wrong type of lignocellulose fiber, if you use a cheap product, you can have huge lesions in the gut. So if you take wood fiber, you need to be sure that the wood fiber shows the best quality. Opticell shows the smallest available particle size on the market. So this is the highest quality that you can have. If we take the last minutes that we have, let's take a look into the results that we produced within the last years, scientific and practical results. And if we use Opticell, we see that we have that the sows will have more piglets. You have higher number of weaned piglets, less problems with constipation. Animals are calmer, they are less stressed, they show much faster farrowing. So length of parturition is shortened dramatically. The piglets are heavier. And we have a huge impact as well on the MMA risk and on the stress and on the stress level of the sows. Let me show you one trial, a scientific one we did years ago, but I want to show it because it shows the difference to wheat bran. We used the same diet for the control and for the treatment. The only difference was wheat bran versus Opticell. So 11% wheat bran and 2.8 Opticell in gestating sows. Why did we use 11 here and 2.8 here? We wanted to have the same level of crude fiber. You see 7% here, 7% 3 here. So if you take a look into this diet, you would say this is the same diets. Same level of crude fiber, same level of basis diet, same level of nutrients. So what should be the difference? The difference was dramatical. We had much drier fishes. So Opticell keeps the fishes much drier. And we had significant improvement of length of parturition. This means the length of parturition was much shorter in the Opticell group. So this was 1 hour faster. This is 2.5 hours, and this is 3.5 hours. And of course, if you have faster farrowing, you have more weaned piglets. You see, we had 0.6 more piglets. You see, this was with Austrian genetics 2009, 10 years ago. Nowadays, this would be 14 and this would be 16. So it's a huge difference. Take a look into this 10 years later. We did a trial with Opticell and the control group again. And we again took a look to the length of parturition and litter size. And again, we could see that the inclusion of Opticell in gestation and lactation, this is the recommendation of Agromed, 2.5%, maybe 3% maximum in gestation and around 1% in lactation. And the result was again, the number of born piglets was significantly higher. And again, 1 hour faster, 4 hours in average instead of 5 hours. So 3 minutes and 21 seconds faster for the piglet. And of course, this means that the survival rate of the piglet is much higher. You see that the total number of piglets was not influenced. It was even a little bit higher here, which is nature. This is nature. But you see the number of piglets born alive. You see 1 piglet more alive. And this is just because of the faster farrowing. So Opticell has a direct effect on the speed of parturition. And of course, you have a much higher survival rate. So if you use genetics delivering so much piglets per liter, you need to use Opticell to fulfill these genetics. It makes no sense to buy hyperprolific sows giving birth to 16 piglets, 17, 18 piglets per liter, but only 10 animals survive because the birth process lasts too long. Here, Opticell is a perfect management tool. So if we summarize these trial results, we have less stress, less pathogenic, much better feces quality, higher daily weight gains. So as well in piglets, Opticell is a wonderful tool that we should use. And let me just briefly take a look into this trial that we did in the Henan University in China just 1.5 years ago. And again, this trial was a trial where we challenged the animal with lipopolysaccharides. This means lipopolysaccharides are substances which provoke inflammation, substances which provoke destroyed gut health. And you could see that the result was really tremendous. You see that the average daily feed intake was the same for both groups, so there was no influence, but the weight gains were significantly higher with using Opticell. And even when those animals were challenged with LPS, by giving Opticell to them, the growth of these animals was nearly similar to the control without LPS. So what does it mean if we have the challenge, if we have a challenge in the gut? Using Opticell helps us to keep the animals perform on a good level. Whereas if there is no challenge of pathogens or other disturbing substances, the addition of Opticell let our piglets perform out much better. So in any case, even if you have the best management and no challenge, Opticell helps you to earn more money because the piglets grow better. And especially if you have a challenge of some pathogens or other factors, Opticell helps you to come back to a regular level and to earn money with your piglets. You can see this here as well on the feed conversion ratio. You see in regular conditions significant influence of Opticell. So it's a fiber source. This is a fiber source which decreases FCR. And this is only because Opticell has a direct influence on the fermentation of butyric acid. This is the huge difference to any other fiber source. All the other fiber sources, if it's a competitor lignocellulose, if it's co-products like wheat bran or soy hulls, they have no effect on fermentation in the large intestine. They deliver no extra energy. Opticell delivers extra energy. Opticell keeps the animal healthy, and that decreases FCR. And of course, in challenging conditions, this effect is much more. And you can also see this on immune response. This is interleukin 6. It's a marker for inflammation. So it tells you that here is significantly less inflammation than in the control group. So the supplementation of Opticell supports the immune system to fight against the LPS and inactivates stress. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to come back to you again. I'm at the end of my presentation. I would really like to thank you for your appearance, and I hope that there were some interesting information for you. I would like to summarize at the end of my presentation that this tool, lignocellulose, Opticell, is a fiber source which we have been using now worldwide since 15 years with great success with it in piglet production because it makes the sow perform out her genetic level. It helps to make the piglets survive because the birth process is faster. It helps us to avoid the stress of the sow, and it helps to fight against the pathogens in a natural way. And for piglets, it just helps to wean them. It makes them eat faster, and it helps them to keep a high health status. It just makes them healthy. So I would like to invite you, go for a test of this, try to make your own experience with Opticell, and try to get rid of fiber sources which have many risks, such as bran and hulls. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for giving me an audience. It's an artificial audience today. It's a new experience, and best greetings, best wishes from Austria, and I hope that we can meet each other physically soon. Bye. Thank you.
非常感谢 Dr. Asser 的介绍。那 助好鲜呢，对于养猪的朋友真的好用哦，真正赞啊！哦，就那像煮食的刀子，有一支好的菜刀哦，会用剁鱼、剁肉、剁鸡、剁鸭、剁粉椒、佮剁蛋甲，真正是好用。那讲实在的，在小弟服务的区域，那很多客户也都有使用，那的确是有感受到它的好处哦。那我们助好鲜。呈现一个，这是一个有闻起来有木头的香味哦。那它实物上它是呈现有点颗粒状哦，颗粒状，但是它是由细小的粉末打粒成颗粒状再粉碎。有颗粒感，还不错，味道也还不错，有木头的清香。好。那接下来呢，我们要介绍克服下痢的一个妙招，我们这个新产品保利镜。不对，跟这个牙齿是没有关系的哦。我们一个新的产品保利镜哦。那相信养猪的朋友，有时候遇到下痢的时候怎么办？哦，落屎的豆药啊，无要安那哦。那有的药物呢，用久了会钝掉。那有的时候呢，我们可能不太适合，或者是我们也不想用药。那在这个时候，我们还有另外一个选择那就是我们的新产品保利镜那接下来呢，我们来请Dr. Rudy 博士来为我们介绍保利镜这个非药物的添加剂。
Dr. Rudy 呢，目前担任阿波妹公司的技术经理，负责全球的技术服务。曾经在大饲料厂跟世界知名的添加剂公司工作过，包含像是 Nutria 跟 Adisio 等等。好，接下来就请他为我们带来精彩的演讲。
Dear ladies and gentlemen, very welcome to the discussion and to talk about Agromed Protect. Let me share my screen. Agromed Protect is dedicated to combat diarrhea in pigs. For grower and finisher pigs, we usually have no diarrhea problems. They eat and grow. Therefore, our biggest worries are about feed conversion and meat price. If diarrhea appears, people often blame dietary imbalances. Imbalances are very seldom, basically, and we can consider bacteria and viruses as a main reason behind. One of the main pathogens for fatteners is Brachyspira hypodysenteriae. The appearance of fresh manure you all know. The two pictures on the very left indicate the normal variation. When feces is more watery, mucoid, or contain some fresh blood, pigs will suffer and can't grow properly. So FCR is going down and mortality may jump up. We all like to know our enemy. Menin and co-workers examined the main pathogens behind diarrhea at different production stages. As a result, they found 7 main pathogens and a combined appearance. This makes the whole game much more difficult, as we can't say which one comes first or second. For fatteners, E. coli, Salmonella, Brachyspira, and Lawsonia are the most dominant ones. But what is the impact of an infection with Brachyspira? There are not that many controlled trials available on this issue. This here is a trial with weaned piglets at about 35 days of age, all being positive for Brachyspira at the beginning of the trial. In the picture you see in red the growth of the infected pigs over 3 weeks, without any additives. They grow, and the farmer may think it is somehow normal for his farm. However, the antibiotic treatment was very effective, and then the piglets speed up in growth, and at the end of the trial, the difference to the control group was 170 grams per head and day. It's huge. Let's come to some information about Agromet Protect itself. We, as Agromet, focus on active ingredients from wood. In Agromet Protect, we use phenolic acids and lignans, here in green. These phenolic acids and lignans are part of the polyphenol family. And the key in this game is to detect the right molecules. There are also stilbenes, flavonoids, and many others in the family of polyphenols. From these vast majority of options, we detected molecules and raw materials to be active against swine diarrhea. The mode of action is, first, to improve resistance against pathogens and to increase the gut integrity and health. As the absorption of the molecules in the small intestine may be low, we have the benefits along the whole small and large intestine. Recommended dosage is about 1.5 kg per ton. It can be also slightly more, and for prophylaxis reasons, 1 to 1.5 kg per ton of feed are sufficient. Here are some results on Agromet Protect for pigs. The initial tests were done at an integration in Brazil. Here and there, they have problems with bloody diarrhea and were using the product already. Therefore, we were invited to compete. In this table, you can see results from 2 farms. Dosage of Agromet Protect was 1.5 kg per ton of feed. Treatment about 14 days. At farm 1, start of the fattening period, both products performed well and reduced mortality at this period from about 0.9% to 0.2%. This indicates Agromet Protect may be very helpful to ensure a good and fast start in the fattening period. At farm 2, the products were used at the mid-end of fattening when mortality was already over 2%. Here, Agromet Protect outperformed the competition. And when I look on the weekly mortality, I'm not sure the competitor's product did even work. Because before the trial, we had a weekly mortality of 0.32%. With the competitor's product, it increased. So the bad situation developed further. And only by using Agromet Protect, we got a strong improvement of the situation. And when I compare Protect to the competitor, the difference is even bigger. Here, for illustration purpose, some pictures from Brazil. So the fattening units are not always very advanced. Another test was done in Bulgaria. This farm had problems with Lawsonia infections and a far too high mortality. As the owner is a vet from Austria, I trust the diagnosis very well. By using 1.5 kg per ton at the middle of the fattening period, Agromet Protect reduced mortality by nearly 40%. A similar result as from Brazil on the slides before. And we should not oversee, the performance level at this farm was very high, over 1,000 grams per head and day. For the 55 days of fattening, the mortality was reduced by about 2% points, from 5.1 to 3.2. Again, the view on weekly mortality. And here the overall mortality is higher than at the Brazilian trial, but the effect of Agromet Protect is very strong again. I come back to Brazil, where we tested again against the same competitor as before. The problems on this farm were diarrhea and increased mortality. Unfortunately, we didn't get back some firm data. But here, important to mention, after 2 days, the symptoms disappear. Usually it takes 1 or 2 weeks for full gut recovery. Therefore, it is very good to have a solution by hand to act immediately. Now we come to Europe, to Austria. This field trial, Agromed Protect, was not fed just in a period of problems, but for the full fattening period, from about 29 to 110 kg of body weight. The farm suffered from increased mortality and also low performance. With Agromed Protect, the FCR was improved by about 8% and the mortality cut in half. Here's the data. Feed intake was reduced by using Agromed Protect on the very left. And this is very well in line with the redirection of energy from inflammation to growth. Pigs eat mainly due to available energy, and thus they reduce intake because the availability was increased. Even at the reduced feed intake, the growth was slightly improved. But the overall level of below 800 grams per head and day can be seen as underperforming. A tremendous effect is the FCR. 2.97 by using Agromed Protect is still too high. But without Agromed Protect, the FCR is a nightmare for the farmer. The overall mortality is very high, was very high at this farm. We would expect data clearly below 3%. At this farm, again, Agromed Protect cut the mortality in half. And for the weekly mortality, we see similar values as in the trials before, and a nice effect of Agromed Protect. At bringing all this together, the improved growth and feed conversion and reduced mortality, the income over feed cost per pig was improved by about $9.50 per pig when using Agromed Protect. What are the practical experience from the field, from Austria and Brazil so far? It was said the vet, he was looking for non-antibiotic problem solver. We have strong restrictions in this, and there's a strong push from society, from government to reduce antibiotic usage. The farmers know their pigs and problems and also the antibiotics very well. So they are a good partner in this play. The Agromed Protect is seen effective against enteric diseases. And the key is to break through the inflammation cascade to control the problem. The vet recommends 1.5 kg per ton as a start, and then later it may reduce to 1.0 kg. The product can be mixed easily on farm. Thank you very much for your attention.
非常感谢 Dr. Rudy 的介绍。哦，头拄仔讲到会飞天、会种地、会所在拢无讲啦，吼。人家讲的是非常实际的哦。然后在实物上，在很多地方养猪，那事实上它的效果的确是非常的好哦。那这个保利镜呢，哦，那它的外观哦是很细的一个粉末。很细的粉末哦，这个流动性很好，有一股清香，我不晓得怎么形容啊，这可能还是要您的猪来去体会才知道哦。好，那接下来呢，我们要听完这两位博士的介绍，我们现在进入 Q&A 哦，问答的时间。那欢迎呢有问题的朋友们。哦，可以直接在线上留言，或者是私讯我们的小编哦。 那为了要感谢您的提问，我们会赠送。那同样是由阿波妹公司他们所出产的一个产品鲜苷微镜。那鲜苷微镜呢，它一包是这样，我们请它可以来秀一下。这我送你一大包，不过这一包大概10公斤因为它很轻，它是一个很轻的粉末那这个鲜苷微镜呢，它的吸水性很好，它很适合用在出生的小猪。出生小猪身上很多有一些黏液啊、水分啊，容易着凉。那如果呢，我们用这鲜苷微镜弄下去，它可以快速的吸干水分，它可以快速的吸收水分那在我手上这样，而且呢，这因为它是这种木质的这种木头的这种粉末，所以呢，它对于废水池的负担也比较小比矿石粉类的还要再小一点那所以这也是一个非常好用的东西。好，那我们已经有观众有回复问题了吗？
那我们先欢迎 Dr. Rudy 加入我们的 Q&A 的Hello, Dr. Rudy. Thank you for joining us. Here, I think we will get several questions from customers. We are still waiting. OK. 好我们现在目前收到第一个问题，来自张文月先生的第一个问题。好，第一个问题是印象中豆壳的霉菌毒素污染问题比较少，但是在 Dr. Other 的演讲当中有提到霉菌毒素污染的风险其实蛮高的，想要请问一下这个来源是从哪边来？ Hi, Dr. Rudy. The first question is, we usually think soy hull has less problem with mycotoxins, but Dr. Other said the risk is quite high. How could you explain this?
The toxin risk for soybean hulls seem to be high at local production and usage in South America, mainly, because storage conditions are not kept in a perfect way. More globally, the aralenon seem to be problematic. Even if the effect on constipation is good, we have to look on the number of born piglets. At soy hulls feeding, often the number of mummified piglets is elevated.
好，那 Dr. Rudy 的回答是，黄豆壳的霉菌毒素风险主要来自于储存的环境。目前看起来就是在南美洲可能储存环境比较差，所以问题可能比较大。但是全球性来看，比较普遍的问题是 F2 毒素的问题，尤其会影响母猪的繁殖表现以及刚刚出生的仔猪。那他刚刚有提到，其实就算你使用黄豆壳，可以看到母猪便秘情形减少，可是在小猪的出生头数上面也需要注意一下，然后还有木乃伊胎的比例也有可能会提高。好，接下来我们应该已经收到第二个问题了，我来看一下第二位问题是，好，目前是收到小编是收到私讯，那客户没有留下名字，可能待会会后再跟你们做联系。那第二个问题是，使用保利镜多久可以看到控制下痢的效果？之后可不可以停用？好 ，OK. The second question is, how long could we see the effect of controlling diarrhea after using Protect? Could we stop using after diarrhea stop?
This is depending on the reason of diarrhea. As long as you have pressure for diarrhea, bacterial or nutritional reasons, you should use Protect. Therefore, it is advised to use Agromed Protect for a full period of expected diarrhea. For example, initial 3 weeks of fattening, at mid-end of fattening or so.
好，那 Dr. Rudy 的回答呢，主要是要看是什么原因去引发下痢的。如果是细菌性还有营养性的下痢，其实都可以使用保利镜。那建议的使用时机会是在发生下痢前的1周开始使用， 或者是像是我们移动蓄射前后换料阶段，可能都会遇到这样子的问题。那使用效果其实通常蛮快就可以看到的，试验里面也都有提到。好，那感谢以上2位得奖者可以获得鲜干微镜10公斤1包。接下来我们就进入有奖征答的阶段。
对，那因为时间的关系哦，刚刚如果线上没有回复到一些问题的朋友们，那请容许我们事后再跟您联系，这样子。好，那最后呢，我们要进入了有奖征答的阶段。有奖征答有什么奖呢？我一样是送我们的鲜干微镜1包哦。好，那第一题呢，热身一下哦，来个简单一点的问答题哦。我先念一次，然后我会再重复一次哦。那我们是看说，哪一位朋友们，我们最快而且是最正确的一个回复哦，那就可以获得我们的奖励哦。好，来听好了，第一题，请问抗细菌性下痢的这个新的产品的名称叫什么 ？A. 保利净 B. 保利净 C. 以上皆非。我再重复一次哦，请问我们这一次对抗细菌性下痢的新产品是什么 ？A. 保利净 B. 保利净 C. 以上皆非。这个答案会不会太简单了一点？好像是哦，热身嘛哦，让大家happy 一点哦，来试试看哦。太好了，我们小编已经回复，目前已经有了一个新的已经有哪一位？哦，钟永居先生，嘿，鲜干微镜1包。好，那接下来呢？第二题，这个我觉得也是很简单的啦哦。第二题是是非题哦，对或错哦？请问助好鲜含有可发酵纤维与不可发酵纤维，对或错？我再重复一次哦，助好鲜含有可发酵纤维与不可发酵纤维，对或错？这应该凉凉啊啦。小菜一碟啦 ，piece of cake 啦，对不？哦，很简单啊，因为我们就是想要把这个好产品也送出去让大家哦，让大家使用看看，体验一下哦，这东西的好处。哦，所以我们那个正确的是一个人。哦，不好意思哦。我们为了让给大家比较多的机会哦，我们那个就一个人哦，如果就一次就获得可以回答啦，但是我们就原则上就还是1包这个鲜干微镜啦哦。如果同时有2个都答对的话我们就给我们给还没有领过这个鲜干微镜的朋友这样子哦。那我们这个第二题的有奖征答得主是张文月。好，那接下来呢？第3题简答题，稍微有一点点如果刚刚有认真看，其实是还蛮简单的啦哦。简答题，请问我们刚刚讲了助好鲜是它含有可发酵跟不可，请问助好鲜主要可以发酵产生何种短链脂肪酸？我再重复一次哦，请问助好鲜可发酵产生何种短链脂肪酸？哦，那这脂肪酸它是可以直接给我们的肠道当做能量是直接利用的哦。那可以给各位一个小小提示 哦，这个绝对不是哦，你早餐没有吃到那种臭酸哦，不是那种酸啊，那也不是薪水都没有加那种满手心酸，都不是那种酸哦，是很简单。哎，我们已经有朋友答复了吗？
有。
哦，有。第3题我们已经小编这边已经有选出来了，是苏和梗啊，恭喜这位答对。好，那第4题呢？第4题，好了，第4题是算是简答题好了哦，很简单的简答题。助好鲜是可溶或不可溶纤维。我再重复一次哦，助好鲜是可溶或不可溶纤维。出这什么题目啊？这么简单，这是考验观众的智商啊！这个如果答错了哦，对观众其实伤害性是不大，但是侮辱性极强哦。不要答错啦哦，这简单的题目对吧？哦，助好鲜是可溶或不可溶纤维，还是刚刚被我这么一讲，大家不敢随便乱答了，对不对？还是我刚刚讲这个对大家造成了非常大的威胁，心理上有很大的影响，对或错，可溶或不可溶，你一旦答错了，人事也不会怎么样哦。所以
脏了，
好，所以
脏了，
好，第4题是我们一位绰号蟑螂的朋友们，他答对了，是不可能。好，那我们接下来呢，要进入我们最后一题。最后一题是一个比较开放性的一个简答题。那答案其实也，如果您有在留意的话，其实答案也蛮简单的。那第5题的话，最后一题，我们请举出一种母猪使用助好鲜的效果。这是一个简答题哦。来，我再重复一次，请举出至少一种母猪使用助好鲜的效果。这个答案，这个效果应该蛮多的，我想应该这种开放性的这种答案应该还蛮好回复的。哦，好，我们已经有观众回复了，K 礼物，恭喜答对了。助好鲜的效果很多啦，那个这也是其中的一个出生更多的仔猪，这也是其中一个优点。好，那我们的有奖征答到这边，那今天呢，非常感谢大家的光临来收看我们的线上直播。那如果有其他的意见或想法，也非常欢迎私讯我们的小编。那也非常欢迎大家，如果我们下次的线上直播再一起来继续参与我们。非常谢谢大家的光临，那我们今天就到此结束，这样子。好，
那在这边谢谢 Dr. Rudy 的参加。好，谢谢大家，
谢谢
Dr. Rudy， 拜拜。
Bye bye.